Let's face it, learning something new is hard. Dealing with all the mistakes, the inevitable setbacks, and all of the unknown can stress anyone out. And for our children, it can be hard to know how to best navigate these situations as parents, right? Do we push them to persevere despite their frustration, or do we allow them to give up? Where is the middle ground, right? How do we help them build resiliency without overwhelming them? Well, I'm Dr. Jasmine. I am a child psychologist and mom of two little girls. And in this video, I'm going to break down a step-by-step process on how we can help our children work through their frustration that inevitably happens when learning a new skill. So let's discuss. Before we dive into this video, I just want to let you know that I created a quick quiz designed to help you figure out your unique parenting style. I also break down some important practical tips that I think are important with each unique parenting style so that you can see better behavior and feel more confident in your parenting. So after you watch this video, be sure to take my quiz. It's 2 minutes, it's free, and it's a lot of fun. So this video was actually inspired by the questions that I get asked all the time inside of my private parent coaching community, the Mom Sisterhood. And here's what one mom asked me. She said, "My biggest struggles right now are dealing with big sister who is 4 years old, frustration when not being able to do something she is learning. Most recent example, monkey bars at the playground. She practiced doing all of the monkey bars at our playground over and over again, usually falling halfway through. Each time she fell, she would cry, yell, and sometimes throw wood chips that are the ground covering at the playground, or hit us. Although this was hard, she doesn't give up, even when we explain that sometimes we just need a break to rest our body. Luckily, she mastered this a few days ago, but we deal with the same behavior whenever a new task comes up. She also gets very competitive with friends and when playing games. We found the book Little Big Feelings to be somewhat helpful. I'm looking for tips and scripts I can use with her though." Okay, so I love this mom's question. She gives a very clear example while also explaining that this is an overall issue and that this happens outside of the playground, right? Where this little girl is struggling to manage her big feelings. That's really what it comes down to, is an issue with emotional regulation, which is just a fancy word for our ability to regulate, which means to kind of stay at baseline and stay calm despite setbacks, despite mistakes, despite failures, right? And so that's the big thing when it comes to learning a new skill. A great deal of it comes down to our ability to regulate our emotions, both for children as well as adults. The thing about emotional regulation though is that it takes years to fully develop. Actually, the part of our brain that's involved in emotional regulation, the frontal cortex, doesn't fully develop until we are in our 20s. So that means that our children are going to need a great deal of support as well as practice throughout the years to help build that muscle of emotional regulation. Another important thing to keep in mind is that we want to, as parents, as the observers of this frustration, we want to fight back the urge to fix their feelings, because this is actually going to inhibit the process, right? If they don't have the space and the opportunity to work through those really messy feelings of failure, of disappointment, of even embarrassment when they can't get something right, then they're not going to be able to practice and build that muscle. So we have to fight back that urge to fix the feelings, right? We can set boundaries, absolutely, but we want to allow the feelings. We want to allow them to sit with that feeling of discomfort in ways that are not overwhelming. And absolutely, we want to be supportive, we want to be validating, we want to be present, but we don't want to fix the feelings. So in these moments, you can identify the feelings, right? I see that this is really frustrating for you. Oh my gosh, you were almost there and you fell, and that's disappointing, right? You want to convey in your tone that you really do feel how they feel, but you also don't want to say, "Oh, it's okay, just go ahead and try again," right? I know I'm guilty of this too, right? I'm guilty of just trying to reassure and move on and get them going again, right? We want to just kind of pick them up and put them back on whatever was frustrating them and kind of give them that confidence in themselves. But if we rely too much on this, it's going to inhibit the process. So let her sit with that discomfort. Just basically identify the feeling and leave it there. See where they take it. Also, I want to talk about the magical ingredients of this process before I break down the step-by-step process. Number one ingredient is empathy, which I just talked about, right? Where we are putting ourselves in their shoes. Remember the last time that you were trying a new skill, right? And how frustrating it felt, or how maybe unsure you were of yourself that you could even learn the new thing, right? I, for example, am practicing puzzling, right? And I'm working my way up to larger and larger puzzles, but throughout the process, it's a good lesson on persevering, even when we get frustrated, right? Even when we can't figure out the puzzle. So I say that to say, kind of think about your own personal journey and the last time that you tried to learn a new skill. Because that's going to help you put yourself in your child's shoes, right? And see the world through their eyes, that learning new things is hard. And think about your child, man. The world is so new and they're constantly overwhelmed with learning new things. So the more empathy that we can have for them throughout this process, the better we're gonna stay patient. We're gonna avoid trying to fix their feelings, and the more likely they are to actually persevere despite setbacks. The second magical ingredient is ongoing conversations and ongoing teaching moments, which I'll break down an example in a second. The third magical ingredient is boundaries around acting out, right? So this mom mentioned how she will throw wood chips or she'll hit. So we definitely want to address those acting out behaviors. So I want you to remember, all feelings are okay, but all behavior isn't necessarily okay. And so when there's issues of safety and dangerous behaviors, then we definitely want to address those in the moment. Okay, let's dive into the step-by-step process on how to help our children learn new skills and persevere despite their frustration. So what I would do in this mom's case, her daughter is 4.5. So she has the language capacity to have a conversation, and that is where I would start. So start with a conversation. Start with talking with your child about the issue you notice, right? Whenever things start to become a pattern, you definitely want to think about having those conversations directly with your child, but only have the conversations, not only have the conversations, but try to have the conversations at moments where you are outside of the stressful experience. Both of you are calm, you are connected, because that's going to allow it to sink in and for them to actually be receptive to your teaching. In the moment, it's often harder to have these conversations because everybody's activated. In this mom's case, she's in a public setting. So really what you want to do in the thick of the moment is to have boundaries around the behavior and focus on regulating emotions and connecting. So step one would be to have a conversation when everybody is calm and connected. What you want to do in this conversation is establish clear boundaries around destructive or dangerous behavior, as well as make a plan for the future. So in this mom's case, it would be making a plan for the next time we are at the park and we are working on our monkey bars. So you want to kind of communicate this clearly with her, and then you want to also follow through, which we'll talk about in a second. But in the conversation, you want to first lead with observation and recognition. So I want you to think of the sandwich approach, right? We want to first lead with connection, observation, recognition of all of her hard work. Then we'll go into the meat of the teaching and the boundaries, and then we want to end with connection, reassurance, and all of that good stuff. Okay, so you can say something like, we are about to go to the park. Lately, I've noticed the monkey bars are frustrating for you. You're working so hard to get all the way across without falling. I love seeing all of your hard work. You really want to drive that part home, that I see the hard work, I see the determination, I see how important learning this new skill is, and that is admirable. I really respect that about you. I love that about you. And then you want to lead there, okay? Get them talking, get them oriented to what you're talking about. And the example, you could even, give a recent example, like just yesterday, I saw you work so hard and you were climbing and you were focusing on each monkey bar. And even when it got hard, you kept practicing. So again, orient them, compliment them, point out and recognize all the hard work that's involved in this. Next, you want to go into the problematic behavior and validating the feelings. So you could say something like, I also noticed that when you get frustrated, you sometimes throw wood chips or hit us. And then ask, do you notice that too? Do you know what I'm talking about, basically? And kind of just allow for some silence, allow her to soak it all in. So you don't want to have rush through this conversation, right? And okay, point A, point B, point C, right? You want to just let it marinate, let it sit, be calm about it, and just say, hey, I noticed this. Do you notice this too? And then you can say something like, it is totally fine to feel disappointed. So what you're doing is you're validating the feeling. It's totally fine to feel frustrated. I get how hard this is for you, right? So I get it, and then put up the boundary around the behavior, right? However, it's never okay to throw wood chips or hit anyone else. And then you want to educate. Well, okay, why is it not okay, right? It's not enough to say, oh, it's not okay. We want to give a little bit more education and context, right? So you could say something like, wood chips can get in somebody's eye and hitting hurts bodies, right? If and when this happens again, we are going to take a break on the bench or in the car together. Okay, is that understood? Does that make sense? Another option you can try, another angle, is to say, put up the boundary, right? We can't throw wood chips because they could get in somebody's eye. What is something different you can do when you feel really frustrated in that moment? Get them talking. I would actually start there, right? Get them talking, get them brainstorming and trying to problem solve. Okay, we have this problem. I notice this is happening. We can't do A, B, and C because it's dangerous. What else could we do when we get overwhelmed and frustrated? Pause, allow for some space, reflect back what they say. So if they say, oh, I could try again. Oh, yes, you could try again. Oh, I could take a break. Oh, yes, you could take a break. Oh, I don't know. Oh, you don't know. Okay. Oh, you need help finding different solutions. Okay, so what you're doing is you're just reflecting back what you're hearing, right? Just to show them that you're listening, you're taking this slow, you validate what they're saying. And then if they have trouble with coming up with solutions, or if they come up with a solution, let's say they come up with a solution and you're like, we can't try that. You can say, yeah, that's one idea. And then what would happen? Get them kind of playing the tape in their mind a little bit to help them see that maybe that's not the best idea. Or what you can do is just add that idea to the list and get them thinking about other ideas. And then that's when you can say, okay, which one should we try? And, give a little bit more help along the way. But you want to definitely, in a part of this conversation, you want to come up with a couple solutions that you guys can try again. So clearly identify the solution. So one solution would be to take a break. One solution would be to take some deep breaths. One solution would be to come tell you, hey, mommy, I need help. I'm getting frustrated. One solution might be to leave the park or take a break in the car. Come up with a couple solutions that kind of feel like they make sense. So after you have identified clear solutions, you invite them to repeat back what those ideas were, just to make sure that that they're understanding and that they're, listening and they understand everything. And then end with, do you have any questions for me? And then you might even throw in, depending on the context of the situation, what will happen if she starts throwing or hitting, right? So a good, I would say, logical consequence for this particular situation is that they would have to go take a break at the bench or in the car, or even, depending on the situation, leave the park altogether and try again. But that's really the last case scenario, right? But you just want to let her know what is the plan if it escalates to the point of hitting and throwing wood chips, so that she is warned, she has some heads up before it actually takes takes place. And then to wrap up the conversation, you want to end on a positive note. Remember, this is a sandwich, so we start on a positive note and we want to end on a positive note. And you can end with, in this situation, you can end with, I know that you can do it. I will be here to help you along the way. Let me know if you ever need anything from me. I know that you can do this, right? And then wrap up and end. You don't want to dwell on it. You don't want to, have it go on and on and on and be talking on and on. So be mindful of that and keep it short and sweet. Now, outside of the moment, what's really important to remember is that it is so important to do teaching and modeling throughout your day, right? Throughout the week. Keep the conversation going. And you guys know, if you've watched a couple of my videos, that I'm a huge fan of children's books as a way to teach and keep the conversation going. So a few books that I love are After the Fall, You Can't Win Them All, Rainbow Fish, and The Girl Who Never Made Mistakes. So I'll definitely have the links of these books and a couple other ones in the description of this video so that you guys can check those out. But you definitely want to grab a couple of those books if your child struggles with managing their frustration while they are making mistakes and learning new things, because these books help normalize, one, that we all have these feelings, right? These feelings are really universal, and it helps them play the tape on what they can do differently in those situations, how they can think differently, and what they can actually do differently. And it just helps relieve the pressure, right? It helps just to, again, normalize that everybody feels frustrated in these moments, and that it's less about, trying to minimize the feeling and more about just trying to make a good choice in that moment. And another big thing to do is to model making mistakes. Again, we want to normalize that mistakes are okay. A recent opportunity that's come up for us over and over again at our house is coloring and the mistakes that happen when we draw outside of the line. So y'all know, and I'll be coloring with them, and an honest mistake will happen, and I'll point it out. Oops, I drew outside the line there. Oh, I made a mistake. That's okay. I'm gonna keep going. Okay, and I keep going. And now my youngest daughter, she's 3. She'll say, oh, I made a mistake. That's okay. I'll keep going. And I praise that, right? I jump on that. Wow, I love your attitude. That's such a great idea, or that's such a great choice. I love, to see how your picture is turning out, right? So you just want to model for them in everyday moments, you making mistakes and persevering, right? So they'll watch me do puzzles, right? And see how I don't get the puzzles right away, right? It's a lot of trial and error. It's a lot of making mistakes, if you will. And that's okay. That's involved in any kind of problem we're trying to solve, right? Is that we're going to make mistakes, and it's more about our attitude, right? Our perspective about making that mistake that matters the most. And sometimes we need to also normalize needing to take a break, needing to take a step back so we have a little bit more clarity or perspective, needing to ask for help, right? Or maybe, look at the problem from a different angle so that we can solve it. So all of that is it's wonderful opportunities to model making mistakes, because it happens every day. So just try to draw your attention to the mistakes that you commonly make, like dropping something, or making a left when you should have made a right while you're driving. All of those are good opportunities to model making mistakes. Oops, I made a mistake. All right, I'm gonna stay calm. I'm gonna take a deep breath. Let me look back at my map. Oh, that's right. I should have made that right turn. Okay, I can try again. Mistakes happen, right? It's about your language that you use to approach these situations. And just know, even if your child is not always responding back to what you say, they're listening, okay? They're listening and learning. And that's how they learn the best, right? They learn through modeling, and also, of course, trying it out for themselves. So the secret is to find the balance between stretching them beyond their comfort zone, but not stretching them so far that they get overwhelmed and they get frustrated and angry, right? Because it's very hard to learn new things when we're overwhelmed with emotions. So this may take some trial and error, but read your child's cues, follow their lead, and overall you just want to instill in them your confidence that they will get it, right? Also just recognize that effort. right? Recognize their hard work and their effort, because that is what they're going to hold on to when the going gets tough, right? They're going to hold on to, ooh, I can do hard things. Ooh, I can keep working at this. I will get it eventually. All the while normalizing mistakes and mess ups, because they happen, right? It's a part of being human. So I hope this video was helpful. Don't forget to take my free 2-minute quiz to find out your parenting style and get some free parenting tips. The link is themomspsychologist.com/quiz, or you can visit the link in my description in the comment section. That is it for this video. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.